The Texans finalized their practice squad. So what can we make of the additions? Plus, relationship building matters. And that is the reason why Nick Caley is in Houston. Shots fired, or is it admiration for the new OC?
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Battle Red Nation, from H-Town to your town. Today's episode and every episode of the Locked On Texans podcast is for Texan fans all around, all 50 states across the country, even outside of the country. You're a Texan fan, today's show and every show is for you. New listeners, thank you for lending your ear every day. Us from the Himalayas, thank you for coming back to listen to me, your Texans credential media member and football analyst, John Hickman. Excited for today's podcast. We're looking at practice squad, finalize. Any surprises there? For me, not too much, but I do think that the Houston Texans could have made some additions that would have bode well for them down the line, just in case I don't make it home tonight. We'll dive into that. Shots fired at Bobby Slowik, who is no longer with the Houston Texans, or is it just admiration for Nick Caley and the job that he's done since arriving in Houston earlier this year? Players have been on ESPN, CJ Stroud, we've heard from Titus Howard. Now it seems like maybe Nick Caserio and D'Amico Ryans are getting it in on the mix, but we'll dive into that. And is there a move that may come back to hurt the Houston Texans? Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Where is the advantage for the Texans looking at their finalization of the practice squad? Before I get started, I thought that Houston, it would have been great for the Houston Texans to get their hands on cornerback Jalen Davis, who played for the Baltimore Ravens in 2024, and DB safety Bo Braid played for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Bo actually had a solid rookie year last year, a few interceptions for the Steelers. And then we look at both cornerback. Houston is carrying 4 cornerbacks. You look at the safety room. C.J. Gardner-Johnson didn't start the year off on the PUP list, but that room could still use an upgrade. He would have been perfect for the Houston Texans, but neither of them lasted through waiver claim order. The waiver claim order to make it to the Houston Texans, and I kind of wonder if even if they would have been there, what the Houston Texans would have brought them in. But the practice squad additions, nothing crazy, right? Kind of the guys that were brought back, expected to see those guys back. Good to see players like Miles Bryant, Trent Brown, and Harrison Bryant back. Obviously, these guys were favored in Houston, and they wanted them back, and those guys wanted to be back here in Houston. I think a message here is, listen, the guys that fight hard, those are our guys, and those will be our guys. Very relationship-based. And for the practice squad, I don't think it's too much to talk about. I don't think it should be too much fuss. Too much. I'm not saying it shouldn't be any at all, but too much. Some of these players are some good insurance pieces that can go on the field and be ready in case of emergency, injury, or because they continue to stack good days, good practice moments. One player I expected to see back, and I expect to see back in time for the first 2 weeks of the regular season, is Harrison Bryant. I'm speculating here. Nobody told me anything. I'm not trying to create a story, but my speculation is part of the reason why Houston elected to release him and then practice squad him was to give him some more time with the system and learn more about what his specific role and expectations would be without counting towards the 53 until he's ready. Maybe he would have gotten here a week earlier. We may have seen him make that initial 53-man roster, but timing cost him a spot on the initial. I don't think that'll be the case for too long. And also, one thing that we haven't talked about regarding Trent Brown, for what it's worth, is his versatility. Trent has played just as many snaps at right tackle as he had at left tackle. I think that's great, considering a team that, believes in the swing tackle. And he's been a Pro Bowler in his career and in the NFL. I say that because I'm a fan of Houston bringing him back. And when you look at his versatility, especially when he's healthy, he is the actual swing tackle for this team. Typically, swing tackles, high risk, low risk, high reward type of players, especially in terms of contract. that fits Trip Brown. He's coming off a season, the last couple of seasons, where he is on his last leg in terms of how long he'll be in the NFL. I think he wanted to be back in Houston. I think Houston wanted him back. Feels like the perfect, quote-unquote, marriage. So I think this is a perfect move to bring him back. Again, left tackle, right tackle, in case something happens. He'll be a great swing tackle. Furthermore, if Brown had been healthy, I kind of wonder, again, this is just speculation, but I kind of wonder if Houston would have been more aggressive with moving on from Robinson, though that cap number is extremely high. I talked about it on the Wednesday episode. What that dead cap will look like for the Houston Texans, it's very high. Maybe if Brown would have been healthy enough, it would have made sense to move on from him, at least to break the glass emergency alternative. If Robinson was gone, would have been a vet that has seen every type of front in the NFL, every type of move in the NFL, and has won against most of it. Now, when I say that a lot of this shouldn't be too much of a fuss, and then I back it up by saying too much and not all, are two different things. Like I think that there should be some type of fuss there. And of course, I'm over exaggerating when I use the word fuss, but I thought Audric Estime would have been a great player here in Houston, guys. And I thought that would have made a ton of sense for the Texans. Averaged 4.1 yards per carry last season as a rookie up in Denver. Had a 1-star, played in, I think, in 12 games, couple of TDs on the year. Going based on NFL experience and production. Let me make sure I say that first, and I'm going to say it again. Going based on NFL experience, regular season experience, and production, he is a more valuable candidate to the practice squad than Jawar Jordan, who a lot of us are fans are. I'm a fan of him. But in this case, practice squad players are typically players that have been around a team. But in this day and age, we see a lot of shifting. Guys are trying to find new homes. Teams are trying to find players that fit what they're looking for. And right now, if the running back position goes to crap, though we like Jordan, what's the expectation for him if they have to call him up compared to a player that has NFL experience and has done pretty well for himself in the NFL since arriving last year? Looking at some of his stats here for you guys. Again, 310 yards on 76 carries, 4.1 yards per carry, 2 TDs on the year. There were moments where he was extremely valuable for the Denver Broncos. And again, you want to get the best of the best as much as possible. Do I think that they did that? Maybe not, but I do recognize that Houston brought back the guys that they trust and know because they've been here since day one. So that is the practice squad additions from Wednesday. Again, not a lot of fuss from me. Overall, I think the practice squad players make sense for Houston for the most part, and not a lot of parity. And each player is a player that has called Houston home for the last several months, and Houston has called that player a brother, coach on the field, a teammate, or they built that relationship with that player. And here in Houston, man, I don't know when they'll get over it. Because sometimes it plays in your favor, sometimes it can kind of hold you back. But we've seen them kind of move on from guys that they have those relationships with. But it just ain't working out. They started that off this year. Again, this is the practice squad we're talking about, so that doesn't hold a lot of weight. Holds enough, though, just in case. But now I do think there was some shots fired at Bobby Slowik, or some of us, may just look at it as admiration for Nick Caley and his coaching style. We got more Locked On Texans on the way. Are the Texans fed up with how they have been perceived from the 2024 season? However, guys, perfect opportunity to let you guys know that guess who's back? Prospects is back. Prospects ain't going nowhere, y'all, but I'm super excited to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Prospects, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heated up. It's over with now. We're going into Saturday. We got some college football. It's finna get exciting. And whether you got your eye on a big-name quarterback or a breakout running back, Prospects makes it easy to get in the game. Hey, man, listen, Prospects is even better than ever. They got the weekly flyer for this weekend. Prospects is offering a major max discount Avery Johnson max discount for this Saturday versus ISU, 0.5 passing yards. You got to take that right. Dak Prescott max discount Thursday night versus Philly, 0.5 passing yards. You got to take that right. Prospects always hooks you guys up. It's simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you can cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. Some of us need that. Prospects is possibly making a way for you. The flex play option is a total game changer. Even when one of your picks misses, you can still double your money. Prospects puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Download the Prospect app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 play. Prospects, it's been a while since we said this, run your game. Hey guys, we have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes the survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. I want to see a Locked On Texans listener taking a picture on social media, post it up with a $100 Amazon gift card so we can split it. But no, seriously, that is lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thank you for helping us out here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, been a lot of shots fired lately, man. You got CJ Stroud on First Take, right? You got Titus Howard. He was speaking with ESPN's own DJ Bieniemy, I believe, who was a friend of the show. It's an article talking about how they were doing things that didn't bleep and match us. Nobody was happy with how this offense operated last year. Nobody. So much so I saw a 49ers report to talk about the disadvantage of a Shanahan offense is the limitations it puts on a quarterback. He called Brock Purdy an amazing quarterback, but the offense may be holding him back a little bit. Saying it about Brock Purdy is a shocker to me. However, saying it about C.J. Stroud is not. And I think when we look at the totality of 2024, everybody is just happy to finally say, okay, we're getting ready for 2025 now. We've shown improvement in the areas that we were lacking in last year. We had to go out and do it, right? However, guys, it was more to the story than what the national media, maybe here locally, would like to admit or maybe know about. So they're fighting back. I like it. They got to go out there and show it in the regular season. Before I begin this conversation about, the difference between firing shots at Bobby Slowik or just may have high admiration for Nick Caley, both Caserio and D'Amico Ryan spoke highly of Caley on Wednesday. Listen to the GM and head coach duo share their thoughts on the positive impact Caley brings to the Houston Texans in 2025.
It's no different than probably the relationship that D'Amico and I have. I mean, you're in constant contact. You talk about everything. So there's communication back and forth. Hey, like this, what do you think? I'm not really comfortable with that. Maybe it's something else. So that's how it should work. I mean, any good relationship, it's about good communication. So it starts there. So whether it's football, whether it's in life, my kids don't like maybe the communication we have, but it's about good constructive dialogue, good communication, and ultimately, quarterback's got to be comfortable because he's the one, the ball's in his hand 99% of the times in every play. So, in the end, there's only once the play clock cuts off after 15 seconds, you're on your own. So, you want to make sure that you're comfortable with the call, comfortable with the formationing, comfortable with, where you're going with the football. Maybe it's a mechanic thing, maybe it's a technique. Maybe, hey, can we make this adjustment to the formation? Hey, that's a good idea. I've seen the best relationships that I've seen in that situation. There's just a lot of dialogue. Saw firsthand kind of how that went with Tommy and Josh. Honestly, it was Josh probably got sick of Tom, but, that's all right. But, we're talking from Sundays after the game until Sunday morning before the next game. That's what it takes. The hardest position to play in all of sports. It takes a lot of work and constant communication and dialogue on a day-to-day basis.
The most important thing for me when I was looking for an offensive coordinator was the connection piece. Right? It's about how you interact with the players. That was the most important piece to me because I feel like coaching is all relationships, right? And it's if I can build that deep relationship, that trust factor with a player, and I can, as players and coaches, we can accomplish anything because we have that tight relationship. And it goes to the guys I'm looking for in our team. I talk about looking for everybody to come together, right, and be a tight-knit unit, right, to be together because when the ups and downs of the season, it's going to happen. There are going to be some high moments. There are going to be some low moments, but who are you in those low moments? The only thing that can allow you to survive those low moments is having a trust, having that true trust, having that true deep connection and relationship, with your coaches and players, and that'll allow you to get through everything. So that was the main.
I think it's always encouraging to hear Nick Caserio, who's been around a lot of great football, and I mean great football. It's always encouraging, guys, for him to say, listen, I've been around Tom and McDaniels, and I know what a good working relationship looks like in terms of quarterback and OC relationship because he understands it. And those guys got into it. They've held each other accountable, but at the end of the day, they did what works best for the offense. I thought that was important to hear, kind of comparing those two, emphasizing coaching matters. And then you look at D'Amico Ryans also emphasizing that, hey, listen, coaching is relationships. Relationships matter when we look at coaches and doing a job well. These are still grown men. CJ Stroud, third year in the NFL, for a lot of people, still a young pup, though we look at him as a big dog as quarterback, and hopefully he proves it again this year. He's still a young guy in the NFL, but that doesn't mean he's not a grown man. And so one of the issues that leaked out last year was players having to go to Bobby and say, hey, essentially make suggestions. And Slowik would reject the players for his system. That was something that leaked out last year. And so when you look at that, just look at rejecting players for the system. See, the problem that I have with that, and I had with it all last year, was, brother, your system ain't being called by Kyle. It ain't being called by McVay, ain't calling it. Kyle ain't calling it. My guy up in Minnesota ain't calling it. And to that point, you don't have the weapons all around you like Kyle has at the height of the 49ers offense. McVay has had with Matthew Stafford, who's a dang near 20-year vet. The weapons that they have in Minnesota. You don't have that. But you got to work with what you have. So when you hear Nick Caley say things like in his first press conference, we're not going to be a this offense, we're not going to be a that offense, we're going to have a good blend and find what works best to create the Texans offense. And follow that up by saying, hey, guys, listen, I know y'all got a lot of questions about where I'm going to run and what my scheme going to be, but it's really about the players that are on the field. When you hear that, and when you also hear Nick Caley, not Nick Caley, but Nick Caserio, a lot of Nicks, a lot of Jalen's on this team, right? But Nick Caserio emphasized the importance of relationships. D'Amico Ryans emphasized what he was looking for when he was out there searching for an offensive coordinator. It was a guy that can not necessarily be relatable to his players, but be relatable to the strength of the players and what the players are good at, and finding a way to get that out of them. And listening matters. A lot of people feel like this is the coach, you do what the coach says. There have been, in my opinion, more coaches that have ruined good players than good players ruining coaches. That's just my opinion. And then we've seen it all the time in the NFL, at the college level, even at the high school level. So I think that, was it shots fired at Bobby Slowik? I think this entire week there's been subtle shots. Maybe on purpose, maybe, not even on purpose. But I do think that it's important to highlight that the Texans brass feels like they got their guy. It's important to highlight that it is some admiration there for Nick Caley. Case in point, DeMeco Ryans, and we didn't see a lot of it last year. We didn't get a chance to see a lot of it last year because though the Houston Texans went into the start of second halves, a lot of times with the lead, those leads were narrow leads, barely hanging on. So we've never really consistently saw DeMeco Ryans really get busy. The times that I can remember it, the Cleveland playoff game, the Chargers playoff game, the Patriots game. And I would say that because they knew the Chicago Bears offense was so inferior, the Chicago Bears game week 2 of last year. But there hadn't been too many times where we've seen DeMeco Ryans' defense get busy in terms of exotic play calls. But when that offense is able to score points, then you see DeMeco Ryans find ways to get creative with the players out on the field. That was an issue last year. So DeMeco is essentially looking for someone that can coach like he can. And guys, listen, if Nick Caley can coach the offense 70% of how DeMeco Ryans can coach the defense, the league is in trouble. That's why I think it's more so admiration than shots fired. The players have every right. The players have every right. And I think of all the players or of anybody that's come out to say anything, Titus Howard may have the most right. But I love the fact that the Houston Texans did a good job of just saying, hey, listen, man, we like the guy that we have, and we appreciate him because he's going to bring what we expect to see from our team. Now, is there a move that could come back and hurt the Houston Texans? I don't know, man. Let's talk about it when we come back. More Locked On Texans talk on the way. Guys, you probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them, but if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Ready. Rougiette Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rougiette 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue. It kicks in fast on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control, when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rougiette might be the answer for you. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. You can even read real customer reviews on their site. It's helping a lot of people feel more confident and present in the moment. Trust me, fellas, you don't want to be somewhere else mentally when everything that you've been looking for is right in front of you. Head to Rougiette.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL to get 15% off today. That's Rougiette, RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL and use promo code LockedOnNFL for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, and manufacturing review. Please visit Rougiette website for full safety information. Also, guys, listen, NFL season is here. Like, it ain't no almost here no more. It is here. And FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. A lot of people that I know love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet, man. You're a player props type of guy. You're building the same game parlay type of gal, or even jumping in live games as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, and whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your favorite fantasy lineup, it's quick, it's easy. It's the best way to add a little bit more excitement to your Saturdays and Sundays and Mondays and Wednesdays and Tuesdays and Thursdays to your week. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Welcome back, Texan fans. Before we close out today's show, I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Texans your first listen today. Hey, NFL fantasy draft season is here. So for your second listen, go find the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast with hosts Vinny Iyer and Michelle Magic. Listen every day to prep your fantasy draft and become the most informed manager so you can take home your league's trophy this season. Find Locked On Fantasy Football on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Closing out today's show, listen, is there a move that might come back to hurt the Texans? Is there a move that might come back to hurt the Texans? Currently, how the Texans are put together, 53-man roster, coaching staff changes throughout the offseason, how the draft went, I'm going to say no. The move that Houston could probably point to, not bringing back Stephon Diggs, but for that price point, and also with the off-the-field drama that Stephon Diggs had and has going on, was it worth it? I'm going to go with no. I think they nailed it in the draft. I thought that if you were to look at any of the move in preparation for what we now know is the Joe Mixon saga, which DeMeco Ryans ain't really messing with the media and how they handle injuries. And to that point, I want to say I think it's unfair to every media member. A lot of us want the information, to use the information to dive deeper into football operations and how the Houston Texans can pivot from that situation. DeMeco Ryans mentioned that this is a microwave society. It isn't like the old school times. And I don't disagree with DeMeco, but I think it is unfair to those people who are looking to kind of get back to that old school style of reporting. But the lack of information that's been provided to those media members hurts what they want to do. I'm one of those guys. At times I want the information. I use the information to get to football reasons, to talk about how the Houston Texans can pivot and continue to be a competitive football team. For me, it's not about, getting the information on the injury, to talk about how the player is injured and to talk about the injury itself. I love talking about the game and how the game can be brought to life for the Houston Texans. And so I kind of took a little bit of problem with that, took a little offense to that. But one thing that I have to recognize, because I've recognized it the entire time, is DeMeco Ryans isn't that far removed from being a player himself, and he has always been player first. That's his mentality, and I get it. I completely understand it. What's frustrating is, for me, I just saw this unfold with Christian Harris, and it was frustrating to not know, not necessarily not know, because knowing the timeline and knowing the injury, I think, are two different things. I think timelines matter in order to report accurately. That's what I want to say. So in the case of Joe Mixon, what is the actual timeline? That information can be used not to highlight the injury itself, but to highlight during this point of time, this should be the expectation for the rest of the guys that will be actively playing football for the Texans. And I hope it makes sense. I hope I don't ruffle feathers, but that information matters for people that want to use it the correct way. I'm on the side of let's use it the correct way. So, but I don't think there's a move that's going to come back to hurt the Texans. I think that when I look at that question, that isn't just an August question. That isn't just a July question. That's a every day after losing to Kansas City question. And the biggest and boldest move was not moving on from Bobby Slowik. It was trading Laremy Tunsil. Is that going to come back to hurt them? I'm going to say no. Why do I say no? I know what I see. I trust my eyes. I'm not calling him Laremy Tunsil right now. But I'm going to say Ariante Ursary has the talent to be just as good, if not even better, than Laremy Tunsil. Work in the run game matters, as well as protecting the quarterback. It ain't going to be all peaches and cream to kick off his rookie year. And I understand that. A lot of these tackles are coming out NFL ready. Guards are having issues with the transition. Tackles is where you kind of see some of these players a little bit coming out a little bit more polished. So he could have one of those Slater type of years, Tristan Wirfs type of years. And that'll be great for the Houston Texans. But I see a lot of potential in that young man, and I think the sky is the limit. And when you got two guys on the opposite side that's going to baptize you every day at practice, eventually you kind of get tired of that baptism. And you start to hand out slaptisms. I just was waiting to use that. I think the Houston Texans are in a very good spot right now. Firing Bobby Slowik is also a part of that. Will that move come back to hurt him? As we've seen in the last couple of days, keeping him would have hurt the Houston Texans more. So they're in a better spot with him going. I think they're in a better spot in terms of the mentality that they're looking for. When Larry Tunsil go, they're also in a better spot moving on from Chris Strausser and Cole Popovich, one of those old school kind of style coaches that has really did a good job of revamping this offense to get it where the coach envisions it, which is very important. I think the Houston Texans are fine where they are right now. I'm excited to see how it all starts against the LA Rams in a couple of weeks at SoCal. Thank you guys for watching today's episode of the Locked On Texans Podcast. Please be sure to subscribe, like, and comment on YouTube wherever you listen to your podcast. Follow me on Twitter at John_Hickman12. Again, I want to go back to, I don't think I ruffled any feathers, and I don't think what I said is ruffle feathers-esque. But I do think that information within the right hands pushes the game. And I think that's fair to say. Thank you guys for watching today's episode. Until next time, ladies and gents, Texas fans across the world, baby. Peace.